Can you believe that we're still here in the virtual world? Sure, we're kind of hybrid, but the reality is we've not gone completely back to in person. Who would have thought we'd still be here 18 months later? I remember the week that everything got wiped off my calendar and we had to learn how to use an online platform. Now, I'm a fairly high-tech baby boomer, but man, it was a learning curve. And we're still there. Are you? In this video series for NSA-Las Vegas, we talk about improve, innovate, and invest. And the idea is to share our improvement, innovation, or investment. That's what we thought was the best one that we made in 2020. I spend most of my time in front of a classroom teaching seminars. So when we went from in-person to virtual, I basically just started sitting here in front of this webcam and teaching classes on GoToWebinar, which if you know anything about GoToWebinar, it is basically you talking to a webcam, imagining that everyone on the other side of the camera is sitting on the edge of their seats, listening to every word you say and really freaking out, thinking, holy crap, is anybody there? 2 times I saw 2 different people present using Mentimeter. And I thought, oh, that's what it does? I had no idea. And I decided to go ahead and just stick my toe in the water, and I never turned back. And so I started using it in my virtual classes. So I'm going to share a little bit of it with you, and I'll take you for a little tour in the background just so you can see it. And I'll show you how you can get the super low price educational pricing that they offer, and you can decide if it's for you. So Mentimeter sits on a browser, in your browser. It's an online platform, and you build presentations that can look and feel very much like a PowerPoint or a keynote. But the difference is you ask the audience to join you on that presentation through a link for them, and they interact with you live in the presentation. And then what you're sharing on screen is that interaction, that engagement that you have with the audience. It's really cool stuff. So let me share with you what the home page looks like, and we'll take it one step at a time. Here we are looking at the browser, and this is just the home page of Mentimeter. So let's just get the biggest question out of the way is, how much does it cost? So we're going to click up here at the top, and we're going to click on pricing. Basically, these monthly fees are if you invest in 1 year. Now, a little super secret, if you're in education, so which I consider myself in education, you can click on this, prices for education, and the investment will go down a little bit. There you go. Now, I use the basic, but if I was teaching my own content, I would definitely upgrade to the pro version so I could brand it with my own colors and my own logo. So just a little food for thought there. So this is a presentation that I use in my coaching of Mentimeter. So this is just a template that I give my coaching clients. And so basically I set it up so that anybody who gets started with Mentimeter, they have some basic slides set up, but you can literally start from scratch. I built this presentation from scratch. And if you're noticing on the screen, you see on the main part of the screen is the main slide. If you look to the left, there's the different slides that are available in the presentation. It looks kind of similar to PowerPoint, right? And then on the right is the design elements of that slide. So this slide's a very simple slide. We'll look at the type. It's just a big message here. So big message. There's text here, which shows up on the main screen. And then there's these reactions that I've selected. There's other tabs here where you can customize and move images around and move the text around a little bit. But that's basically it. There's a type, there's the content and there's some customization that you can do. So here's a bullet slide, same thing. So it's a bullet type of a slide. I'm going to go ahead and go to the content, and you just simply just put in the bullet points here. I imported an image that was available through Mentimeter. They offer images that are free for you to use. You can use their images or you can import your own. The way you involve the audience and get them engaged and get them interacting with you is by putting in slides that have questions on them. So this next slide I'm going to show you is a question slide. This is just designed to get people involved in participating on the presentation. You can change these answers. I just set this up on a template, but you can put these, you can make these say whatever you want them to say. This is an example of a multiple choice slide, and you can even decide how you want the answers to be displayed. So I have the dots selected here, so it's going to fly in as dots. You can use bars, you can have a donut, a pie. There's another slide I want to share with you here. The one thing I've found is that it really is important to experiment and use different types of slide layouts, because if you just put in, let's say all the questions are a word cloud, which is really cool. If every question's a word cloud, it kind of loses its cool factor. So you definitely want to use the different types of questions, the different layouts, because you're changing the perspective of the viewer, the audience. You're making an interruption. They have to pay attention when you change the way you ask questions and the way they interact with you. So that keeps them more engaged and keeps them interacting with you more. This is a scales slide. This is one where they're going to choose a rating and they're going to slide it across with a little pin or a dot that's on their screen. So it's just a different way to get them involved. This one is an open-ended question slide. The way it displays is a flowing grid. Is one I picked. You can do one by one, or you can do speech bubbles. They all have different benefits. So it's really important you just get in there and try it out and see how they all work. So this is a presentation that I put together for an organization I spoke to recently. This is what it looks like when you hit the present button up here on the right. It's going to go full screen. When you share your screen, this is what's going to show up for the audience. Now, they are going to be looking at it slightly differently. So one of the things we can do is get them to the presentation in a couple different ways. Don't try this at home. I'm going to actually show you what it looks like on my cell phone, but here's the thing. This is not really work for you because this QR code is not going to work when this presentation's over. If you look in the window where my picture is, this is what it looks like on an iPhone. So they're participating, looking at the same screen that you're sharing. But what happens is once you show a question and they answer it, they get kind of a holding pattern and you're displaying the answers on the screen. There's a couple ways to move yourself through these presentations. One is if you have one single screen, you can just hover over the menu down here, you click the arrow and it moves you forward. And then you just keep clicking through. It's just a really cool software and it gets people really involved in the presentation. Here we are again, looking at the presentation as if you're preparing it. So I just wanted to show you some of the cool things that we have here. Is down here at the bottom of this slide, if you look very, very bottom, I'm scrolling, here's where the presentation notes go. So you actually do have the ability, just like in PowerPoint, to put presentation notes in here. The trick is, if you're just presenting the main slide on your main screen, like I just showed you, you're not going to see these notes. But Mentimeter offers something called Mentimeter. And when you're using Mentimeter, you actually are going to be guiding your presentation from a second screen or a second device. And when you're looking at Mentimeter, you can actually see the presenter notes. So this is an example of what Mentimeter looks like. And so here you can see on this screen that below this image, I have notes. In order to use the Mentimeter and be able to follow along in your notes and also share the main screen with your participants, it requires two screens. So if you only have one device and one screen, then you would put the Mentimeter on a second device, like an iPhone, an iPad, a tablet, a smartphone, and you would be able to see this exact information on that second device, and you'd be able to drive the presentation accordingly. So it's as simple as hitting the arrow in moving forward. And each time you go forward, you see the notes appear at the bottom of the screen if there are notes. I'm going to just show you one more thing about it, which is really cool. So this was an actual presentation that I did a couple of weeks ago. If I scroll down, this is what the export looks like. You can export any individual slide as a PDF. You can also export an Excel spreadsheet with all of the responses on it. This shows the end result of the presentation. This slide here, for example, shows how they ended up ranking or rating or selecting the answers. Here's one with images and bars. Here's another with free format text. So all of these results are exportable, so you can keep them for later. You can share them with your client. You can use them for future planning. You can collect all types of data information from your participants, whether you're doing research and development, or you want to be able to have some information to get that next presentation booked with them. This is really cool stuff. I could talk about this literally for hours, and I do. So the other cool thing that happened when I started using Mentimeter is every time I did a presentation, I was using Mentimeter instead of PowerPoint. And so I would go to events and I would do an hour presentation on the 5 questions every leader should ask themselves. And it would never fail because a lot of the events I go to are other speakers, and they would ask me, what's that tool you're using? What's that tool you're using? And I'm like, how about, what was the second question I said you should ask yourself as a leader? And, it's just funny because they were more focused on the tool than they were on the content. But hey, when I speak outside the classroom or outside the seminars and webinars, I'm typically talking with other speakers. So we're always analyzing the software and the presentation materials and the lighting and the cameras and the microphones. And sometimes we don't even pay attention to the content because we're thinking about our business, right? So because of that, I was originally in denial. And then one of my friends told me, look, they're going to ask you about Mentimeter when you do that presentation today, right? I said, yeah. And they're like, well, why don't you just start coaching people? And I'm like, I don't want to coach people. So sure enough, did a presentation. Somebody asked me about Mentimeter. Another person asked me. So I got on a couple phone calls with people, and I was, freely sharing information on it. I was starting to get my schedule pretty full, helping people with Mentimeter. So eventually I launched a coaching program. Here's my point. When you find something that you're really good at and you really love, you may accidentally find another stream of income. So it was actually the greatest investment that I made in my business. It not only helped me be a better speaker, a more engaging instructor, getting feedback and interaction from my audience and making my classes funner and helping people retain more information, and actually even giving a voice to some of those quiet people that would never raise a hand in an in-person event. And that's the power of it. And then I also ended up with another stream of income. So I hope this inspires you to invest in your business. I love Mentimeter. I hope you at least check it out. And if you want a couple minutes to ask me some questions, hit me up, schedule 15 minutes with me. I'll answer all the questions you have. Hey, go out there and continue to thrive, continue to adapt, make the best of the situation we're in. There's a big difference between resiliency and adapting. Resiliency, that helps us spring back. But when we adapt and we take advantage of the changes, we actually spring forward. And that's what Mentimeter helped me do. It helped me spring forward in my speaking business. All right, guys, peace out. Good luck.